Now that we have our API, it's time to consume this API from our main application. So for that, the first thing that we have to do is we need to remember this URL and somehow store that in our main project, because that is the URL the main application will use to access the API endpoints for our products. So we will copy this and we'll close the application. Let's go to our main project, which is mango.web. Inside there, we have appsettings.json. Here I will create a new section with the name of service URLs. And then the first one that we will add here is product API. We will paste the value for HTTPS, localhost, and the URL that we copied. Now we need to access this inside our startup class file. How will we do that? For that, let me close everything here. Let me save app settings and then close everything. And then inside our main project, I will right click, add a new class file. This will be to hold all of the constants. So I will call this as st for static details. This will be a static class, so that way we don't have to create an object. And right here, what I want to do is I'll have public static string, and I will call this as product API base. Next, I also want to create an enum here, which will be API type. Whenever we make any API calls, I want to make sure that we are using something from this enum. So calls can be either get, post, put, or delete. So we can use our enum to make sure that we do not make any spelling mistake. Then inside our main project, we need something like a controller or something to access the services. We can do that directly inside the controller, or we can use the similar repository pattern that we used inside the API project where we created a product repository. Inside our main project, I will call that as services. So we will right click, add a new folder. I will call this as services. In there, we will have the interface and then we will have the implementation. So inside the services, we can add a new folder, iServices, which will have all of the interfaces. So here we will add a new class file, interface, and I will call this iProductService. Here we will have all of the methods to do CRUD operations on product. We'll make this interface as public, and we'll have all the methods which will be async. The return type, we will keep them generic as T, and then let's implement all of the methods, or rather define what the methods will be here. So first one will be getProducts async, and what will be the type, we'll keep that as generic, and then we won't have any parameters here. This is the first method. Let me copy and paste this, and next we will get product by ID. So we'll say get product by ID async. This time we do have to pass the ID, so we'll pass the product ID. Based on that ID, we will retrieve the product. Then we need methods to create a product, update a product, and delete a product. So when we work with create or update, we have to pass the product DTO. Let me create the method here, create product async, and then here we have to pass the product. Next, I'll copy and paste this a few more times, and here we need to define the generic. There we go. So the return type, basically we are saying that we are defined when we call the method. Next, we will have update here, and lastly will be delete. Now with delete, we will delete that based on the product ID, so it will be an integer ID. For create and update of product, we need the product DTO. You might be thinking that we have product DTO inside the product API models. We can just reference this project and use that. You never do such things in microservices. Microservices isolates everything within that environment. In a real-world project, each of the microservices that you see here will be its own solution. But here, since we do not have to work with multiple solutions, I have added that inside one umbrella. If it is in different solution, you'll have to create that model again. So even if this is redundant, it is helpful to isolate things. That way you can work with one piece of code worry-free because you know it won't affect anything else in your website. That being said, we'll have to replicate this product DTO inside the main project. We can directly copy this and paste it in our main project. We do have to change the namespace here because it is not inside the API anymore. So it is inside mango.web. Then we have models, and inside there we have the products DTO. The next thing that we want is a copy of response DTO because response DTO is what is being sent from the API. So we need to fetch that inside the main project. So we will copy this response DTO, paste that in models as well. We will have to change the namespace. So let me copy this and we'll paste it right here. Perfect. So back to our interface implementation. When we will be creating a product, we will be passing a product DTO, and we'll do the same when we have to update. So with this, our interface looks in a great shape. Let's continue in the next video.